Hey everybody. Let's review new Steam games that I picked up. Before I do, let me just say real quick. So if you want to tell me things, my audio setup has changed slightly. I'm recording into a USB interface right now, whereas before I would record into a mixer. But like I'm not always confident in my mixer settings, and also it's way too easy to move them sliders and whatnot and lose my settings. So like having them digitally is probably the best because they're like cats walking across this desk all the time. Anyway, and this is a different microphone because the pop filter like broke off of my other microphone. So yeah. I'm just hoping the audio is still, quality. I think I found a good spot for this stuff. But if it sounds significantly worse to you, like, please let me know. I will try and fix things as I can. Anyway, let's spin the wheel. It's not dilly dally talking about audio business. Oh, this is good. Yeah. Yeah, this is one that I can't believe I didn't have before. Fez, because it's such a well known game and very beloved. Let's find out all about it. Okay, so Fez. Yeah, I've known about this game for a long time, and I actually believe that I have it on other consoles. I might, like, because it's been around since 2012. And so, yeah, not only do I have it on Steam, but like, I believe I have it on the PS Vita, or PS Vita probably, because that's a console that was so good to indie developers around the time that this game came out. So I think that's where I might have another copy of it. Anyway, regardless. So obviously Fez is the little guy with a fez, and fezzes were very much in the pop culture domain at the time because Matt Smith was Doctor Who. And I mean, look, we all know David Tennant is better. He's better. He's just better. David Tennant is the best of all the Doctors Who. But be that as it may, Matt Smith brought in the big money, and they had some really good stories during the Matt Smith years, and so really, the entire thing with Matt Smith made the stories better and more interesting. They got better at making the show, but also all the teenage girls were in love with a guy in a fez. Remember that? That was the whole thing. But anyway, so yeah, you got a guy in a fez, it's pixel art, okay, cool. But what else is about it? Well, what else is about it is that, you get the call to adventure very early. Your character wakes up and, has a call to adventure, very literal, like, hey, come, it's adventure time, let's go do the adventure. And then you find out, like, you've been living in a 2D world, and then your world gets turned sideways because you find out that there is, in fact, a third dimension. Oh no. Yeah, and so, like, what you're seeing with this gameplay is something that you're going to immediately recognize this sort of world shifting. There are two games that come to mind. Because it plays as a 2D game, but you rotate the world itself, and then different things become unlockable as you rotate these 2D planes in three-dimensional space. And so what you end up with is a game that is, it's a puzzler. It is a, 2D slash 3D-ish, like 2D at a time, but 3D ultimately, and you got to engage in a lot of three-dimensional thinking type platformer. And the two games that it is most similar to, both of which, one like Crush, also known as Crush 3D, depending on what it came out on. That's another one that I have on the Vita, or no, I have that on the PSP because it's a little bit older. But the other one, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, is newer than Fez, if I recall. Could be wrong, but those are the two games where you see this, world shifting kind of mechanic in order to do platform style puzzle solving. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you will know that I am terrible at puzzle solving. It's not my forte, and I am, in fact, bad enough at it that it's problematic. That it becomes a thing where I don't like that kind of game as much because I'm not great at it, and I don't like, well, honestly, I don't like playing games that feel like I'm doing homework, like I could do homework if I wanted to. I have to grade some homework this weekend. That's a whole thing I have to get into, but like in terms of like me doing homework, nah. Like I don't want to be doing that in my free time. And so like this game already has like some personal feelings against it in that respect. It would be the same thing if I were playing survival horror. I just don't like survival horror as a genre. Like it just does not sit well with me, and I don't like it. And it's different strokes for different folks. Everybody feels the way that they want to feel about things, and it's fine. I can't tell you how to feel about these things. You can't tell me how to feel about these things. But yes, this game enters the domain with a strike against it, in that, like, this is already a genre that is troubling for me. But here's the thing about Fez, is that it is so incredibly endearing. The pixel art, the way that the character moves, everything he does seems so naturalistic. It really gives a lot of character, and the environmental feel of this game is so immense. Like, you really do get an immediate sense of the world, and it really transports you to this other place. It's hard to even put a finger on what specifically it is about games of this nature. I mean, granted, like, these are the type of games that are, developed with such love and care and attention. Fez was, one of the first big indie titles. As indie gaming was really, coming into its own again. I mean, indie gaming has always been a thing. Like, there's, in the 8-bit Atari computing days, there was a vibrant, homebrew and, like, independent developing scene. And there were magazines devoted to it, and you could get free software through these things. One of my favorite games for the Atari, Getaway, for the Atari 800 line. I played on my 800 XL. It is literally one of my favorite games ever. And it was, one of these independently developed, like it was developed by one guy. And here's a really sweet story, is that myself and a number of other Atari aficionados were just heaping praise on Atari Mania about that game. And the guy who made it found out, and he posted and was like, I can't believe people still play this. And we're like, dude, you made an all-timer. Like, you made such a great game. You should be very proud. And like, great games, they don't have an end. Like, there is no end to the lifespan of a great game, so long as it is still available to be played, either in emulation or otherwise. Which is why we really need to get a hold on, like, No One Lives Forever, No One Lives Forever 2. Obviously, that's an entirely different thing. But, like, yeah, back to the lecture at hand. So, yeah, these small development teams who put such love and care and craft into their games. I think it's just, that's what it is. It's, your mom making you a meal with love and care rather than a restaurant making you a meal because you gave them money. I think that's kind of the difference in the feel of these type of games, because you also look at a game like Axiom Verge, and it's indefinable what it is specifically that makes this game feel so tremendously high quality. It's difficult to pin down exactly what it is that makes the environment of that game, the world of that game, so immediately engaging, and especially because it's pixel art. It really, really is something of a wonder until you realize, like, no, this was somebody's, like, blood, sweat, and tears. Like, somebody really cared about this and really poured themselves into it. And so that really shows. And that being the case, like, my curmudgeonly ways and my, like, oh, I don't like puzzle games, like, it doesn't matter. Like, it ultimately doesn't matter, like, what my genre preferences are, because quality is quality, and it bleeds through, and you can always see it. Now, granted, like, you've been watching the gameplay footage, you've been seeing me struggle with, like, basic concepts and trying to figure out where to go. Now, I will say that, like, the later you get into the footage, my controller started dying, and so if it seems like I'm halting a whole lot, that was me, like, frantically trying to get my controller reconnected. I need to change the batteries, but I didn't want to do that mid, game capture. So, yeah, there's some controller disconnected moments. But yeah, that doesn't apply to all of the halting, ridiculous, like, where you as a viewer are probably like, no, go this way, flip the world, jump up, and there you are. But to me, I'm still like, now I'm not thinking with portals. So yeah, I did, like, it does hurt my brain, this game. Like, it does, because, like, the world manipulation mechanic is simple, and you think that you have a sense for what you can and can't do in game, but that's not true. That's not true at all. You don't know what you can and can't do in game until you try it. And here's the funny thing about that is that, like, I love how we have removed the fear of death in video games, because, like, that used to be such a thing. You'd be terrified of, like, oh my God, if I don't make this jump, then we're going to have to start Mario all over again from World 1-1. So, like, if I let one of Bowser's hammers hit me, then we're done. We're going to have to start back over. And that's all there is, and it's obvious to see that type of gaming came from the concepts that were, in the arcades. They needed a way for you to spend more quarters, because it wouldn't be cool if you could just, die again and again and again and have no consequence in game, if the goal for the designer is to get you to pump quarters into the machine. And so, like, the early years of gaming, and, like, way too long in gaming, was tied to this idea that, like, no, deaths need to be penalized. If you make a misstep in the game, you should be penalized. And I mean, there are games where, like, that is still very much a thing, and people still like those kinds of things and are drawn to them for the reasons that they are. Thinking of all the Souls-likes and whatnot, where people are drawn to it because of the high degree of difficulty and because of the way that you're penalized for not being good at the game. Like, some people really like that. Gives them a feeling of accomplishment and whatnot. Like, okay, totally fine. Like, different strokes for different folks. But for me, I do love it when there are games where it's like, no, we want you to get it. You just need to learn how to get it. So like, we're not going to make you backtrack a million miles and like do this whole section again when you've already proven once that you can make it through this section. Because nothing is more infuriating as a gamer than like, dying in the same spot again and again, which totally happens. And it happens in this game. There are some places where I'm dying in the same spot again and again because I know what to do, but I don't know how to get there. And, the thing is that if you're dying in the same spot again and again, and the game is just actively punishing you for it, then it's going to be so frustrating. But if you're dying in the same spot again and again, and you get a chance to like hone the skill that you have not developed, which is the reason that you're dying, like that's a much healthier approach to it, and less stressful and less painful psychologically and otherwise. I just like that we have agreed that that is a better way forward. And yeah, I 100% agree. And especially with a game like Fez, where like you can misjump a platform for all number of reasons, and like you don't want to be penalized for that. That's not a thing that you need in your life. And so yeah, this game was developed with the idea that like the solving of the puzzles and the manipulating of the world is what's important. If you fall off a platform, don't worry, we'll just put you right back on that platform, and then next time, hopefully you will have learned not to fall off that platform. Like, that is the approach, and quite frankly, I love it. Absolutely. The music in the game is incredible. Like, it really suits. It's so soothing. It really gives the game a sort of casual sort of feel. But the gameplay doesn't feel casual. It doesn't feel like this is a, pick 'em up, put 'em down. This feels like okay, let's go in for a session and really do this and really solve some puzzles over a period of time. So that it looks and feels a little bit casual, but it plays considerably less casual than the look and the feel. So it's interesting. It's a really interesting little monkey. Even though I gave two games, Crush and Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, like, even with those comparisons, this is a different entity entirely. Like, story-wise, I get kind of cave story vibes, in that, like, they're really good at building mystery and intrigue, and, like, things are happening in this world, and you're not going to understand them right away, but you're going to unlock that information over time, which I'm a fan of. Don't hit me in the face with lore right off the bat. Give me a chance to find out about the world as I explore it. That's just a better way of approaching it. But like, it does not take very long in the game. Like, the first level or two, you're like, okay, flip it around, find all the things, and bing, bang, boom, there you go. And then once you get out of those first couple of levels and get into the first like real complex level, oh boy, then you realize that like, okay, this is all interconnected and I need to be flipping back and forth, and there's like foreground and background, and like going through a door, you don't know if you're going to go into a room where there's, one of the cube pieces that you're supposed to collect, or if it's going to just flip you into the foreground or background, or take you to an entirely different part of the level, because it could do that and you don't know ahead of time what it's going to do. And so that makes it so that, if you're backtracking and trying to get every little thing, like, yes, there is a map and there are ways that you can look and find out what you're missing and what you need to pick up, but it's not super linear and obvious how those things work. Like they really do make you work for it. And so, as far as puzzle games go, like this one is not just interesting, it is a decent level of difficulty, but also fun enough just in its mechanics to make it the sort of thing that you could play again and again and put some real hours into it. You know, I myself, like, I'm always thrown by the puzzle part of it. And I'm always a little bit like, oh, do I really want to be playing a puzzle game this whole time? Like, yeah, there's that part of me that's like wondering about this. But on the other hand, like it it does really speak to me. Like the game is really interesting and really fun. It has a good sense of how to make this concept fun and interesting no matter what your interest in puzzles is, which mine is exceptionally low. Because, you know, there's also difficult platforming, and that's a whole thing. But, you know, it also is not the standard, like, you know, run, jump, step on enemies, or shoot them in the face, or something of that nature. Like, it's, you know, like, there are squirrels and butterflies and other things, like, and it's not all like, you know, go from here to there fast, and like try and find the thing and then shoot this guy in the face and then boss battle, here we go. Like, it's not that kind of methodical, done it before experience. It is exceptionally unique. But it's also not, like, I'm asking myself honestly, like, how soon before I revisit this? I don't know. I don't know. I want to say that, like, the uniqueness of the game makes it so that I'm going to be drawn back to it again and again, but I can't tell you that for sure. And that I don't know what to make of that. Let's put a final score on it and find out. Okay, so, yeah, Fez. I'm going 8 out of a possible 10 copies of Crush for PSP, because, first of all, Crush is an equally impressive game. And yes, I was correct. It is called Crush 3D elsewhere, because, like, Nintendo remade it, and they made the main character less goofy, which in my mind makes it less endearing, but they release it on the 3DS, and so there is a Crush 3D on the 3DS, and also probably other Nintendo platforms. But, like, I like the PSP one. I'm not gonna lie. I've looked at both, and I like the PSP one. So yeah, we're going 8 out of a possible 10 copies of Crush, and that's what it's gonna be. So anyway, I feel like somebody who enjoyed this style of game, enjoyed puzzling a little bit more, would probably even rate it higher. You know, if you're a puzzler, this might be your 10 out of 10 absolute banger of a game, like all timer. So yeah, my wife just looked at me because she likes puzzle games, and I already told her that she would love this one. Anyway, but yeah, that do be the thing. Anyway, people, hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.